So I'm going to try something different, and I'm going to review three movies at the same time in the same review. I kind of want to just try this out, see how it goes. I think that I can pump out reviews a little quicker if I do something like this, because I'm going to be seeing more reviews as Oscar season is coming up. And also, I don't really have anything too much to say about any of these movies that I'm going to be getting into. I'll include timestamps in there so that you can skip ahead to whichever review you want to see instead of, let's say you don't want to know what I think about Daddy's Home 2, just skip ahead to Orient Express or Marshall. But let's just get right into it. The first movie I'm going to review is Daddy's Home 2. This is a sequel to a comedy that came out almost 2 years ago, and I really didn't like it. It was not funny, it was boring, and I didn't enjoy it. And it didn't come as much of a surprise that I didn't like this one either. Almost all of the jokes in this movie aren't funny. I barely laughed throughout the whole thing. It felt like it was a 2.5 hour long movie when it was closer to about an hour 50. And there was little to no chemistry between the characters. I would see where it's possible to have a good time while watching this if you go with friends and you just make fun of it and you roast it the whole time, because it could be considered a so bad it's good movie. Someone that I saw it with, so I've actually seen this more than once, which is sort of weird, but one of the people I saw this with said that it was so bad that it was enjoyable, whereas the first one was just bad, so you couldn't enjoy it. And so I kind of get that. I personally disagree. I was really harsh when I did a mini review for this on Twitter. I sort of ripped it apart. I gave it a 2 out of 20, and I'm going to stand by that. Even though I just mentioned it's possible to have fun, I never want to see this again, and I don't think it was a good time watching. I would not recommend watching this at all, even if you liked the first one. I've heard that people who liked the first one didn't like this. But, you know, I guess your tastes are your tastes, right? If you like bad movies, this is the one for you. And now to the second movie on the list. That's Murder on the Orient Express. It's directed by Kenneth Branagh. I don't know how to pronounce that. And I enjoyed this movie quite a bit. I thought roughly the first act was a bit clunky. It was kind of slow, even though it was a good introduction to the lead detective, played by Kenneth Branagh. And once everything on the train started, once everyone was on board, once the investigation started, then this movie turned out to be quite interesting. I was enjoying the way the information was revealed to the audience. I found the mystery pretty compelling. It was a good time to try and figure out who actually killed the guy and to watch the investigation unfold. It was fun to guess and then figure out that there's new pieces of information that are coming out and say, oh, well, my guess was completely wrong. Well, what about this? Well, what about that? And it keeps you going all the way up until the reveal near the very end. And I was pretty entertained by that. And I thought that the direction by Kenneth Branagh was very impressive. There were a lot of lingering shots and long takes. It allowed me to sort of soak in what I was seeing on screen. Particularly, there were a few shots where it was, I've heard people call it the God's eye perspective, where the camera's directly above looking down on the events happening. I thought those shots were very cool. And I also thought that there were a few shots of people behind glass, and so their faces were refracted, and so it looked like you were seeing three of them when really there was only one. I thought that was a really, really great shot. One of my favorites of the movie. It happened more than once, and it was really great. I actually liked it quite a bit. But part of the reason that I liked this so much, other than, there's this great production, really good direction, cinematography is pretty good. There's a lot of technical things that this movie does very well. But part of why I liked it so much was trying to figure out who the killer was, sort of going along with the mystery. And now that I know, I don't think that it would hold up for a second viewing too much. I would still recommend you see it, because I think it is a good movie to watch, and especially with somebody so that you could sort of figure it out together. I would give Murder on the Orient Express a 14 out of 20, and quite frankly, I would rate it a little bit higher, but I think that it wouldn't hold up for the second viewing because I know who the killer or killers are. So that's the only reason I'm not rating it higher. I did really enjoy it, though. I would recommend watching it. And then the last movie I'll review for right now is Marshall. That's directed by Reginald Hudlin, and that stars Chadwick Boseman as Thurgood Marshall. Thurgood Marshall, he's the first black person to ever serve U.S. Supreme Court. But the movie takes place before that, when Marshall was still a lawyer for the NAACP. More specifically, this movie focuses on one particular case where Joseph Spell, a black man, is accused of raping and attempting to murder his white female employer. Where this movie shines is during all of the courtroom scenes. Maybe I just have a soft spot for courtroom drama. I've always found it really compelling. It's very interesting to watch trials unfold to me, even when it's, fictionalized and sort of has a Hollywood spin on it. It's still very entertaining for me to watch. And I really enjoyed everything that took place while the trial was in session. I thought that this is where the movie was its best in every aspect. I thought this was where everyone gave their best performance. This is where the writing peaked, and it was the most interesting during these parts. I was the most invested during all of the courtroom scenes while the trial was going on. Outside the courtroom, however, there was a lot of room for improvement. Everything other than the trial, I really didn't care for. I thought that this movie was kind of boring, actually, when the trial wasn't going on. The characters weren't made to be very interesting. The writing felt very cliche. The performances were pretty bland. The direction fell flat, so on, so forth. And it was just strange because this movie was so good during, or at least not, it wasn't the best courtroom drama I've ever seen, but it was still pretty entertaining to watch. And I thought that it was whatever during all the other parts. And it was pretty disappointing. But I thought that Chadwick Boseman would have been a good choice to play Thurgood Marshall. But not only, he's not even given a script where he can shine. The script sort of ties him down in this awkward dialogue, and his character's pushed to the background because what ends up happening at the beginning of the movie is the judge for this trial says that he is not allowed to speak at any point during the trial. He can only participate in written form during all the paperwork and so forth, stuff like that. And so the main character for me turned out to be Sam Friedman, played by Josh Gad. And I looked into it a little bit. This is the guy who really fought this trial and really tried to help Joseph Spell prove his innocence. And I thought that Josh Gad was pretty good. Again, really only during the courtroom scenes. Everything else, this movie fell very flat. It was very bland. Nothing really interested me out of that. Isn't anything particularly special about Marshall? No, I don't think there is. But it isn't bad either. Really just a middle-of-the-road kind of movie. It's something that I expect to forget about before the end of the year. I wouldn't really recommend that anyone see it, even though it isn't a bad movie. I would give Marshall an 11 out of 20. I really wish that it was better than that, but, it kind of fell flat. So those are my thoughts on some of the movies I've seen recently. I enjoy doing a review like this instead of talking about all these movies individually like I normally would, especially for smaller movies like these where I don't really have too much to say. So please let me know if you enjoy the format. Leave a comment below, and I would like to continue doing it like this, quite frankly. That isn't to say I won't do solo reviews for bigger movies, because I saw Justice League and I'm going to do a solo review for that because I have more to say about it. And I'll definitely do one for The Last Jedi because, Star Wars is everything. But I plan on seeing a lot of movies over the next several weeks. Like I said, Oscar season is coming up, so I want to see as many as I can. Because this is where all the good movies come out. So I think this format will just work better for that. But again, please let me know what you think. And thank you so much for watching. Please be sure to like and subscribe. And I'll see you next time.